I'm going to go ahead and say hello to all of you. I'm Gia Hiegert, a board member of Curry Coast Community Radio 100.7 FM. Thank you all for attending this Candidates Forum, and a special thank you to the library for hosting us here. Our mission at Curry Coast Community Radio is to offer a powerful public forum which lends voice to local cultures, art, education, entertainment, and governments, working together to foster peace, justice, and harmony between all peoples of Curry County, Oregon. We continue to expand our program options. This Candidates Forum is one example of what we are providing for our community. 100.7 FM is on the air 24/7 and filled with music, talk shows, stories, and news. Now, I'd like to introduce Doug Bunn, Executive Director of Southwestern Oregon Community College.
Are there any more cards? If there are, if you would hold them up so they can be collected. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for all for coming to the KCIW Candidate Forum this evening and for your interest in learning about the candidates for local office in the upcoming November 6th election. I'm Doug Bunn, Executive Dean of the Curry campus of Southwestern Oregon Community College here in Brookings. We will be hearing tonight, I should say I am the moderator. That's what it says here. I prepared a number of jokes, however, I don't think I'll be able to deliver them. We will be hearing from candidates for Curry County Commission, Brookings City Mayor, and Brookings City Council. For our radio listeners, the forum is being held in the Chetco Community Library in Brookings, Oregon on October 18th, 2018, and we thank the Chetco Community Library for sharing their space with us. The forum is being recorded for the purpose of airing on KCIW 100.7 FM and for podcasting through kciw.org. KCIW is a nonprofit, low-powered community radio station run entirely by volunteer community members and supported financially through grants and through donations from generous community individuals and businesses. KCIW's information table is located next to the windows. Near the door, next to the windows. And you are invited to visit it after the forum to learn more about our community station. Special thanks to our donors and to all the volunteers whose efforts have made this event possible. The opinions expressed at this forum are the sole responsibility of the person expressing them. Curry Coast Community Radio does not take a position on issues expressed in this forum and does not endorse candidates for elected office. Before we hear from the candidates, I'd like to go over the rules for this forum. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement and then again for a closing statement. A sign will be held up by the event timer to alert the candidates when they have 30 seconds remaining. Sign, please, there we go, timer. And another sign when the time is up. The order of opening statements has been determined by a random drawing, and the order of closing statements will be in reverse of the opening statements. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to each question from an audience member with a 1-minute follow-up rebuttal. Cards with questions from the audience members will be chosen at random, and you have provided those questions. If you have additional questions, you may raise your hand to request an additional card, and your question will be asked if time allows. We ask that your questions be civil and respectful, and we ask that you hold your applause until the conclusion of the forum. KCIW reached out to each of the candidates for Curry County Commission, Brookings City Mayor, and Brookings City Council to invite them to tonight's forum. I'd like now to introduce the candidates of the forum. Please raise your hands when I introduce your name. Candidates for Curry County Commissioner, Jerry Lynn Thompson. Also, Christopher Pash, who is unable to attend tonight. Candidates for Brookings Mayor, Teresa Lawson and Jake Pieper. Candidates for Brookings City Council position number 3, Carla Gottlieb, John McKinney, and Dane Tipman. Candidates for Brookings City Council Position 4, Ron Hedenskog and Dennis Triglia. We will begin the opening statements with candidate for County Commissioner in the order in which they are available. Jerry Lynn Thompson will be first. Three minutes, please.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for coming. I have lived here all of my life. Several generations of us have lived here. One of the reasons it inspired me to run is I knew what we were before, but it's a new day, and I would really like to bring new ideas to the county. I've been on several boards around the Curry Teco Valley Museum Board, some of the other ones I've been on. And I've heard of our challenges that we have had. One of the things that I would like to bring to the county is a reforestation plan. We've had a lot of timber plans, but we don't have timber anymore. We have burnt land. So I think we need a reforestation plan. And I would like to gather our experts, community members, and the U.S. Forest Service to create our own plan for our own community that's run by us, so it's local. It's not somebody from out of state, out of, on the East Coast telling us what's best for us. So I would, in doing that, the resources that we would uncover or harvest there, I would like a portion of that to go back to the county funds like they used to when we were kids, and then a portion of it to go to the reforestation plans themselves. The other thing I would like to see in our county, because I hear it a lot, is the elderly people, including myself now. We would like to have a hospital here in Brookings along with our emergency room. And, figure out the best way, the partnerships, whatever it takes to make that happen to our people so they don't have to travel. I hear so many people going over to Medford, to the Valley, to the hospital, or Sutter Coast. I think we can do better for our people and create a hospital here with everybody's input in it and get some consensus and gather the people. I'm the gatherer of the family to bring people together and find solutions to our problems that we have here. So thank you.
Thank you. A reminder at this point, if you do have a cell phone or a device, if you would silence it, please. Next, we will hear opening statements from the candidates for Brookings Mayor, beginning with Jake Pieper.
Hi. Boy, it's strange not standing up and not being able to see everybody, but y'all know my name. I'm the current mayor and have been for almost 2 years now. It's my first term. I was a city councilor for 8 and 8.5 years prior to that. In the last 10 years that I've served on the council, there's been quite a bit of progress made in the city. A lot of infrastructure improvements, a lot of parks built out. We've had a good, solid run, and I think that is reflected around town if you look. So, I would like to keep that going, that continuity going. It was very good when I was a freshman counselor to have experienced senior counselors and experienced mayor. So the mayor's seat especially, I believe, is a position that someone with a great deal of experience in working in the city needs to step into. So that's why I decided to do it again, and I'd appreciate to be reelected.
Thank you. Teresa Lawson, 3 minutes, please.
Okay. I'm Teresa Lawson. I welcome this opportunity to speak to some of you again, and for some of you the first time. And I think it's great that KCIW is offering this second candidates forum, because the questions go quick and we never get to say everything we want to. I believe I'm the best candidate for Brookings Mayor. My financial background, community involvement, which is president of Azalea Park Foundation, and I also sit on the city budget committee. And because of my involvement with Azalea Park Foundation and the budget committee, I over a year ago, started going to almost every city council meeting and a lot of the workshops. And my background in finance, I wanted to follow the money, find out where it went, so that I could be a real good member on the budget committee, which meets several times during the budget season. And in doing that, what I have discovered, Brookings has done a lot in the last 10 years, and I'm really impressed with, I told Gary Milliman one time, your stormwater system's amazing. The rain that we get, I've lived in towns where everything floods, and I really do appreciate that. But what I also saw was that Gary Milliman was an amazing city manager, but he became very strong, and I feel like the city council became weaker because they had such confidence in him. And a lot of times what would happen is I would go to a city council meeting, and there was a really important issue being voted on, and most of the council members did not ask very many questions. And I would research the agenda before every meeting, and a lot of times they asked questions, I knew more about it than they did. So my background is on my website as far as my management and financial experience, and I am very involved in this community. So although I have worked with Mayor Pieper and I respect him, we have some serious challenges ahead. The housing issue in Brookings and all of Curry County has really not been addressed by the city. And I went to the housing forum in Gold Beach on October 4th. And what the consultant said, and he studied in depth all of our demographics, what we've been doing, he said that this has been going on for 30 years, and our demographics have changed, and we've got to do something, and it's now. So I just don't feel that the current city council has the initiative to take on where Gary Milliman left off. Our new city manager is great, but we need a very strong city council to address these issues. And I welcome the opportunity to talk to you tonight, and afterwards, ask me any questions. I'm very open to meeting one-on-one with people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear opening statements from the candidates for Brookings City Council position, beginning with John McKinney. 3 minutes.
Well, I'm going to stand up. My name's John McKinney. I want to say thank you very much for all the public. This is my second one, and we've filled this room up twice, and it's a great sign. I love people that are involved, want to hear about the issues. I've been here 28 and a half years. I've donated my time to Brookings. As soon as I got here, I started with the police department as a reserve, and came up through the ranks at the police department, started the K-9 unit and all that stuff. So I have about 16,000 hours with the city already. I recently retired in March, and I was looking at other avenues to donate my time, my efforts, my talents, anything I could do for the city that I call home. This is home. This is where I raised my children. This is where I moved to get out of the Bay Area, California. And this is where I want to be. This is where I'm going to stay. So some of the things that obviously we need to talk about, we need to talk about different issues with the housing. Housing's been an issue here since I've been here for 28 and a half years. It hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse. So we need to get together and get this thing fixed. Medical care, we have between Brookings and Harbor, how many thousands of people? We deserve better than an urgent care that's only open 12 hours a day. We have to get that. We have to change it. We have to address our homeless problem here in Brookings. That is a huge concern of everybody here that lives here. We need to get a hold of it and help people. The other issue that I didn't get a chance to talk to last time I was here was one of the issues that I'm really pushing for is we need a school resource officer in Brookings. We need a police officer that is assigned full-time to our 3 schools here. that number one is to protect our children. That's number one, and it should be on everybody's mind. But number two, it fosters a relationship between our young people and law enforcement, and it's nothing but positive to have a school resource officer. How we can do that, city, school district, somebody's going to have to write the check, or we write it together, but it's something that has to be accomplished in our city. This is my first go at city government. I don't have a lot of experience, but what I do have is 40 years of work experience in law enforcement. I have 40 years of financial background doing budgets for police departments, the FBI, California Department of Corrections, running investigative units, doing the hiring, doing the firing, and my time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carla Gottlieb, 3 minutes, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I've lived here about 13 years. I absolutely love this community, and it really is the driving force on why I decided to run for city council. It is something very new to me. I attend a lot of council meetings and always, kind of read the agendas, which all of us can do and should do. And I just really like to be a really great part of the city council. I think sometimes being new can be looked at as not a good thing, but to me, I think I'll be able to ask really good questions. Sometimes they might be silly, but I think it's always good to take a better look at what's going on, what we're doing, and the decisions that we're making, because most of the things going on will have an impact here. What we decide to do about the homeless issue, I know we want to do things that we all can feel good about, and I know that we will if we put all our attention on it together. I think I actually want to say I think it's a very temporary situation that we've just kind of let get out of hand because we didn't know what to do. But I think as soon as we face it and put together, some people that want to be a part of it, I think we can I believe we'll be able to take care of it right away. So I don't want to take up that much time because I know that there's hopefully going to be a lot of good questions. So I'd love to be elected. No matter what, I really want to be more involved in how the city works. And if I'm not on the council, I will be participating and bringing stuff to them for my community. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dane Tippman, 3 minutes, please.
Right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Dane Tippman, running for City Council position number 3. I wanted to take my opening statement opportunity to introduce you to me a little bit, let you know what my experience and my background is that I might bring to City Council if elected by the voters of the City of Brookings. A little bit about me, what I'm doing right now. For about the past 6 years or so, I've been working for the Brookings Harbor School District as a computer technician. I also teach your high school students down there about computer science and information technology. I run a few clubs, one of which is the Bruin News Club, helping students learn about journalism and learn how to interview people, how to use their skills to write articles, and to do radio news as well. I was a board member for Curry Coast Community Radio for a few years. I took a leave of absence not too long ago. Also at the Brookings Harbor School District, I am the Education Association president this year, so I represent all of the union employees of the school district. So that's not only your teachers, but also your education support professionals. That's your cafeteria folks and your bus drivers as well, and computer technicians like myself. In your community, I serve on your City of Brookings Tourism Promotion Advisory Committee, where we make decisions and make advisory decisions, I should say, about what to spend tourism occupancy tax funds on for events in Brookings and for advertising and things like that to get people down here, spending money in our area and supporting local cultural events. I'm also part of a scholarship fund. That's the Curry Student Success Fund, which provides scholarships for students in Brookings, including public school students and Christian school students, homeschool students of any kind in our area. I do a lot of volunteer work in our community because I believe quite a bit in service. I'm a veteran of the United States Army of 5 years, from about 2005 to very late in the year of 2010. And I really believe in serving my community. And that belief is what's continued to drive me to serve on different boards and commissions and to go out there and pick up trash in parks like the Azalea Park. I volunteered with the Azalea Park Foundation for a year. Used to do computer work for the Humane Society down on Railroad Street, updating their data system there. I really believe it's important to me. Serving people is important to me. And possibly serving on city council is a continuation of that service. I encourage you all to listen to the answers all your candidates give tonight, get an idea of what we're like and the kind of personality that we're going to bring to the board, to the city of Brookings, I should say, and how we're going to listen to you, what kind of connection that we have to as many of you as possible so we can represent you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear opening statements from the candidates for Brookings City Council Position 4. Dennis Triglia. 3 minutes, please.
I would like to thank KCIW for sponsoring the candidate forum tonight, our audience members for expressing an interest in local government, and for all of my fellow candidates here this evening. Many of you know that I'm a retired research scientist. My background in cancer research has taught me to seek and evaluate data to weigh all of the possible outcomes of any situation. When a complex issue comes before the council, I research all the options, compare them with other small cities in Oregon, and make what I feel to be the best decision for the people of Brookings. I remain keenly aware that the decisions I make affect people's lives in a real way, often with long-term consequences, and it's an obligation I take very seriously. That being said, we must begin to think and act outside the box in order to move forward. Your city council needs to engage you, the people, to help create both short-term and long-term visions for our city. We need to ask, what more can we do to enhance your quality of life in our community? When we stop learning from each other, we stop growing. Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said, "It is common sense to take a method and try it. If it fails, admit it frankly and try another, but above all, try something." People tend to resist innovation because they're afraid to challenge the status quo. We can no longer afford to be afraid. We must be willing, even eager, to imagine the Brookings we want and to work together to make it a reality. We are almost at the point of no return unless we come together soon and begin to address possible solutions to the affordable housing crisis in Brookings. We need to remove barriers to decent health care. We need to reduce the outrageous SDCs being charged to those building new homes here. We need to offer greater incentives to help newly relocated businesses be successful. We need to allocate additional money each year for tourism promotion, as tourism dollars help to stimulate our local economy. We need to do more than just repair our aging infrastructure if we ever expect to see a year-round covered swimming pool or a performing arts center. We need to remain vigilant in testing and protecting the quality of our water drawn from the Chetco River, especially in light of last year's Chetco Bar Fire, which decimated much of the Chetco River watershed. Finally, we need to end homelessness in our community. Communities that are being successful and making progress in ending homelessness are doing so by creating, facilitating, and maintaining community-wide initiatives that include all of the relevant stakeholders in their communities, including people who happen to be homeless. If we all work together, we can accomplish miracles and improve the quality of life in Brookings. I ask you to join me in this effort, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ron Hedenskog, 3 minutes, please.
I've been through several of these, and I can tell you that it's always distracting to me to try to talk about myself. I'd rather talk about issues or talk about others, but to talk about myself is always difficult to do. I'm a long-term member of this community. I've been here since I graduated from high school and spent my term in the Army, came back, started my family, and I've worked here at various different occupations. And my wife and I celebrated our 50th anniversary this summer, and I can tell you that the reason I'm here is because I like Brookings, and I liked it since the day I walked into the town, and it's changed a lot. Believe me, it has really changed. Through my life, I've seen different city administrations come and go. I've seen an administration come into power that were basically no-growthers and shut this city clear down to its knees till the state had to step in and make us update our sewer system that was getting far and far behind. Our infrastructure was behind so far in maintenance that it was crumbling around us. And eventually I decided that I got involved in city through the Planning Commission and learned all there was that I could about the Oregon state land planning laws and how it affects our community. So it seems like every time we come around the corner to election time, we're going to talk about how we're going to solve the homeless issue, how we're going to help the affordable housing issue. And I'm going to tell you that my discovery is if we don't start at the state level, we don't have much chance down here. We have to follow state laws. And second of all, I'll tell you that you've got to find funding. City of Brookings doesn't have funding to solve this. Doesn't matter how much we want to solve it, we still have to have funding. And looking for that funding is where we need to go, but we need to talk to our legislators about changing Oregon land planning laws and making it simpler. I've been there and I've done it several times. We need a hospital in Brookings. I worked diligently with the governor and the Oregon Health Authority, and we managed to get a law changed that allowed us to have an emergency room in Brookings, but we haven't been able to fund it yet. So once again, we're back at the funding table looking for an opportunity to fund it. I haven't given up on it. I'd like to keep following that one and pursue it to the very end. The very least that we should have in Brookings is an emergency room open 24 hours a day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will now read questions from the cards submitted by the audience members. We'll begin with a question for the County Commission candidate. Thoughts on a diverse forest plan, i.e. prairies and hardwoods versus a monoculture forest? 2 minutes, please.
I think you have to add the prairies in there and some of the hardwoods in order to create a buffer for the fire. And also for the health of the forest. I think the previous forest, when the Indians managed the forest several years ago, we had the prairies, we had the hardwoods, and we had the buffers. And I think we need to go back to the traditional way of forest management.
Thank you. The next question is for Mayor and City Council. And I've got 2 cards that are similar, so I'll read both. The City Council and former Mayor Hedenskog staunchly supported annexation to the Curry Health Network and an emergency room. Why haven't you supported the feasibility of a hospital here? And the similar question is, do you feel it is important for the city to join the Curry Health Network and or have a hospital in Brookings? And if so, why or why not? So please address the hospital issue. Can we start with the mayor candidates? All right. Teresa, would you like to?
Okay. As Ron just mentioned, this has been going on for a long time, and I have tried to research all of the back issues with the hospital becoming part of the Curry Health Network that went before the voters, and the voters said no. And honestly, I'm kind of glad they did, because that's a long ways. Most of the population is here, and they need to bring the services to us. I think that if Brookings took it to the voters, and if Curry Health Network could provide a real hospital in Brookings, that's a real option. What they wanted to do with making us part of the Curry Health Network, we would be on the hook for all of their debt and their mismanagement up to this point. The hospital in Gold Beach, it was a great, I understand why it was put there. There were laws on where hospitals could be, and there wasn't a good location down here. But I think that more research should have been done. We can't go back and change that. But our hospital opportunities here, I think there are opportunities, and we can work around that. There can be a satellite hospital. And I think that Brookings residents would pay into that if that's what they were paying into. We all live here, and the services are up there, and it's a long ways. I can tell you that if my husband had to go to the ER, I'm going to Sutter Coast. I'm not going to Gold Beach right now. It's closer, and Honestly, they have more doctors, they treat more patients, and I think they do a better job. There's horror stories about both. We definitely need to tackle this. First of all, we need to just get more doctors and services, because most of the time you aren't in the hospital. So we need to work on the broad range and more specialists here, more services. I know that Crescent City has just gotten dialysis, which isn't great to drive down there, or they're getting ready to get dialysis, but eventually I hope that we would have that here so we can all stay here till we die. We don't
you.
have to move anywhere.
Thank you. Mr. Pieper, would you like to address this issue for 2 minutes?
The question was
About the hospitals
right.
and
do
support
we
of,
support the city being in the district?
Yeah, in
and
the
then
network.
what was the feasibility thing?
why haven't you supported the feasibility of a hospital here? Was the question.
So the feasibility, I'm thinking like a feasibility study or something maybe, which another counselor can correct me, but the city of Brookings was a part of a feasibility study. This was some time ago. And I supported that and would support it. And as far as the city joining the district, I think that is, fortunately or unfortunately, the mechanism for us to finally solve a lot of the medical issues here. I know that, you know, the idea of joining a district that has already indebted itself quite a bit to build a hospital in the area of the county that obviously is not the most populated, we might just have to put that behind us. I think if the hospital district came and it was proposed at a lower rate than what they were asking for, I think they would have gotten more traction down here. It's definitely not the perfect solution, but I think we're at the point now that we're just going to have to. And you know, unfortunately, the north-south county, the north-central north county, the north-north county, I mean, all these Mason-Dixon lines that have been drawn at some point are going to have to go away. And I usually say, this might get laughs, this might get sneers, but I usually say just a bunch of people are going to have to finally die off and let the newer people erase these Mason-Dixon lines. So I think that's where we're heading. I think that's the best, the alternative that we have is to at some point join the health district.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tippman, would you like to address this issue?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. The whole Curry Health Network issue, boy, that is a difficult one. And when you're looking at joining this organization that does indeed have some debt problems, I can understand caution about being part of that. I would have loved to have had a hospital here in Brookings, have all those employees living here in our town, and having a major, huge employer like that in our area, and be able to more easily and more quickly maybe medevac people and take them to places like Medford, rather than having to drive them somewhere and then take them somewhere else to have that greater care. Would have loved to have something like that here. To have that structure now built up there in Gold Beach within the Cascadia subduction zone, man, that building's probably not going to move anytime soon unless there is some kind of a Cascadia event. It's disappointing to think, well, gosh, I guess maybe we do need to think about asking the voters to consider us joining again, but I just don't see that building, I don't see that structure moving. And I'm not sure, I mean, a satellite sounds like a pretty good idea, having a satellite structure, but gosh, it's built. The structure is built. That's my input on that, I suppose. I wish it had been built down here. I think it would have been fantastic for us, but it is indeed built up there, and I don't see that hospital itself moving anytime soon. But having a healthcare facility here in town that's only open during certain hours, gosh, I got hit on the head once and had to get stitches, and I had to wait. You know, I've got my own personal stories about having to wait while my forehead's bleeding, and I got to blink the blood out of my eyes, and my wife had to drive me there. I was miserable waiting in line for this place. Gosh, you know, I really would be cautious about joining that organization, knowing what it's going to do to our taxes and what we're going to have to pay to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gottlieb?
I definitely would love to see us at least have an emergency room here in Brookings, at the very least. And I'm not going to take up a lot of time because I don't know a lot of the information about Curry Health Network. But it definitely needs to happen, and it will. We'll figure it out. That's it.
Thank you. John McKinney, 2 minutes. if you will.
I would definitely support joining the network. I think we're to the point now where we just going to have to bite the bullet. It has to be financially feasible for our city to join that network, but it's going to have to happen. I think the first step would be a satellite establishment at our current urgent care that we have now. There's no reason that can't go 24 hours a day and be fully staffed. I think as a city, we need to enhance professionals to come to our city. However we can do it, we need to put our hands out and try to get more doctors, more nurses, more therapists, more mental health. How we accomplish that, I don't think there's any straightforward answer on that, but I think we have to successfully go in that direction as a county, as a whole. This is Curry County. We need to think like Curry County, and it's going to benefit everyone. We have a lot of population in Harbor. We got a lot of population in Brookings, and we need medical down here. So we need to bite the bullet and join the network. Thank you.
Mr. Henskog, would you like to address this?
The question was, I was a staunch supporter of joining the Curry Health Network, and the answer is yes, I was probably in the forefront of it. But first, before that, we took trips up to the state. I was a counselor when we did our first study in the area. Pat Sherman was the mayor at the time. We did a feasibility study, and it showed that we couldn't afford a hospital here in this rural area. But the study also indicated that if we put a hospital in Brookings, it would shut down the Crescent City Hospital and the Gold Beach Hospital, make it unaffordable for anything. Because the great population center is here that supports both of those hospitals. So, and the state agreed with that. And when we talked to the state about getting a hospital here, Oregon Health Administration said absolutely not. And the reason being is because it would collapse two other hospitals. They did agree, however, finally, to allow us to have a satellite emergency room service with, I think they admitted up to 12 beds could be added for overnight observation. So my goal then was to say, let's take what we can get and not throw it away. First financial look at this indicated that we would have to be about 25 to 30 cents per thousand to support Curry Health Network's satellite emergency room. Then we ran into a state law that said you have to join their system at their current rate, which was 75 cents, and then we added the other 25 onto that got us to have an emergency room, and we were looking at about $1. I don't blame the voters for turning down $1. It's a lot of money in taxes. It was doomed to fail in a tax-adverse rural area. I'm out of time.
Thank you. Mr. Triglia?
The question about why haven't we supported a feasibility study, I believe Councilor Hedenskog just said that one was done. I would certainly not oppose a feasibility study for a hospital. And an emergency room here would be very nice, but if I suffer a traumatic event, I don't want to be transported to the emergency room and then transported again to another hospital. Brookings is the largest city in Oregon without a hospital, and that just isn't right. So I would favor a hospital over a standalone emergency room. If we couldn't get the hospital and it had been proven because it's too expensive or whatever, then whatever, I'll live with an emergency room. But that's about all that I have to say on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sure. The next question is for the county commission candidates. Ms. Thompson, could you address, could you speak to the Chetco Bar fire monies, and also do you have a plan for how we can better protect protect ourselves from these kinds of forest fires like the Chetco Bar fire, and also rehabbing in the aftermath of these fires.
So can I speak to the monies from the Chetco Bar fire?
Yes, please, 2 minutes.
The one that's on social media? I got a statement here from the church board secretary. It's speaking to the matter of myself and Sky Marie McDonald's information being published on social media. The church has filed a police report regarding the removal of the information from our facility. If Jerry Lynn or Sky Marie wish to pursue legal action, we are prepared to assist them in any way we can. I can say that the information was altered after it was removed from our campus prior to it being published. We have dispersed Chetco Bar Fire funds to many families who were affected by the Chetco Bar Fire throughout the community. Having received permission from me to disclose the amounts that I have received from the Brookings Church of the Nazarene, the Chetco Bar Fire Fund, that were dispersed by, got an extra sentence in there. Anyway, one of the checks was written on 11/8/2017 for $325.38, and the other one was written on March 21st, 2018 for $2,000, for a total of $2,325.38 from the Chetco Bar Fire Fund. So that was the statement on the social media. And the other question was, how would I do the forest to prevent forest fires?
Yes, prevent and rehab.
To prevent and rehab, as a Native American, I would get with the other tribes and community members, and let's take it back to the old ways and do it like they used to do to help prevent the fires. Help prevent the fires from spreading to Brookings. I think we're always going to have fires up there from lightnings, but it doesn't need to come to town.
Okay, thank you. The next question is again for the city candidates, mayor and council, and we'll try to reverse the order here and go to Dennis first. Do you think our parks are maintained up to par, and should more funds be set aside to hire more maintenance workers for trees and azaleas? 2 minutes, if you will.
I do believe that we needed an additional personnel to help in the parks. I've received several times emails from constituents telling me that grass hasn't been mowed or whatever, and I pass those concerns along. With respect to the budgeting, or to the budget, I asked for $25,000 on the budget committee for tree maintenance, just to try to keep the trees safe so that they could be limbed when they need to or whatever. The budget committee cut it to $15,000, which is still better than nothing. And that money is going to be used for that. I think that our parks are one of the jewels of our city, and they're enjoyed by old and young alike, and by four-legged creatures as well as two-legged creatures, and creatures with wings. There's a sense of, when you're in a park, it's a sense of tranquility, a sense of just relaxing and taking your time and enjoying yourself. So I feel that any way that we can help the parks with an additional personnel or something to really keep them in tip-top shape, especially before some of the annual events that we have here, I think that would be good.
Ron, would you like to address this?
We've come a long ways with our parks in 20, 30, 40, 50 years in Brookings. It's just, I wished I had more family pictures of us in the various different parks, but we have family pictures that go back to 1948 in our albums. That park is not the same park as it was years and years ago, and it's got a lot of work done on it. And it could still use more, but I am very proud of where that park is at. And the other parks that we do have, some of the other little ones, for instance, the popularity of Mill Beach Park is to the point now where you can't use the park because too many people are there. I made that comment. I was probably one of the instigators of getting that park fixed, because years ago I used to enjoy it, and then it got cut off. We couldn't use it. We couldn't drive down there anymore. I made it a real effort to get that built back up, and it's been very popular. So, you know, could we do more? Yes, we could do more, but I can tell you that the goal on parks is a long-term goal, a little here and a little there. And grants, we've done a lot with grants. Now, the problem with grants is it's really not free money, because most grants come to the city with a 20 to 40% pay-in by the city. And you can see why the people that grant that money will do that, because they're looking for community buy-in. If the community could come up with 40%, they're willing to shuffle down the other 60%. And so we're always looking for that 40% that we can meet those grants. And I would continue to do it. But once again, I would like to tell you, I'm very proud of Azalea Park. City took it over 30 years ago from the state, and we've done a great job with it.
Thank you. John?
I'm going to have to agree with Ron here. I don't know what we're actually allotted money-wise by the city, but in the 28 and a half years I've been here, I remember first week my family was here, and I took my kids to Azalea Park, and the difference between 28 years ago and now is night and day. It really is. I don't know if you've all been to the backside where the fields are, the soccer fields, baseball fields, softball fields, the playground, everything. I think the city's done a pretty doggone good job. Is there room for improvement? There is, if we have the money. I'm very conservative with spending money, and I always have been, and I always will be. If we have the money, great. If we don't, like Ron says, you got to do a little bit at a time. But I think we're always going, since I've been here, we've always gone forward. I think the improvements in all of our parks, little things like the dog park at Stout, that's a great addition. Things like that are wonderful to have in our city, and we should continue to increase it. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla, would you like to address the issues of the park?
Just only a little bit. Yeah, I'm very thankful for our parks, and I'm very thankful for what has been done over the years by the city. I don't know a lot about the budget for maintaining it, but I think if it's needed, that maybe we do need more people helping. The other thing, I had a friend in the community that had a great idea of, when it comes to the azaleas and the trees, maybe to have sort of an adopt an azalea program, and members of the community that, are inclined, and the master gardeners, or maybe through the schools. I think there's always ways to preserve and improve the things that are important to us in the community. And I know our parks are widely used and enjoyed. And yeah, I think anything we can do to keep those available for everybody is a good thing.
Thank you. Dane?
Right, yeah, I'm thrilled to talk about our parks. I heard in this question the person asks, do we believe that our parks are up to par? Now, I sense that buried in that question is the audience member's belief that they don't think that parts of our parks are up to par. When you see something in the city that is the responsibility of city government, when you see grass that is going a little too long, you see something that's broken, you see an irrigation system that's spraying off in the wrong direction, something that you can do is notify the city, make a little noise about it, let them know. It's possible that it got missed on a walkthrough, or it's on a maintenance schedule that's just coming up a little too late. And if you say something about it and get involved in the administration of the city that you're in, or even the city that you're visiting, it's a way to get some change to happen. I'd like to say that I'm very confident in the efforts of who is now the Deputy Parks and Recreation Director Jay Trost. He's coming to us from the Curry County Youth Department. Fantastic man. He's done some great work there, and he was the Curry Parks Director as well, and he's coming to us now trying to take charge and do some work there. He was formerly on the City of Brookings Parks and Recreation Department, and going to those meetings is pretty interesting and seeing how they function and the kinds of work that our Parks and Recreation volunteers do and try to help us maintain our parks. A lot of things that, like the Stout Park that was mentioned by Mr. McKinney, that was a Boy Scout project put up in there primarily. And our Boy Scouts have contributed to our parks. And they're not the only volunteers contributing to our parks. The Azalea Park Foundation, which is staffed by some very capable people, one of them including Mrs. Teresa down at the end, as well as other parks. Our Lions Club volunteers and maintains a park in town, and Curry Coast Community Radio maintains the park at the old Rays building. Even if you're just passing by, and you see something that you feel ought to be changed, you can get involved and say something about it. Whether it's during your allotted 5-minute time in front of a commission or in front of city council, or whether it's a phone call or even a personal visit down to the visitors area, that stuff does get reported. You know, when you go down to the city and you step up there and you say, "Hey, I just wanted to share this concern," it does get reported. You know, a person came by and said this, and that does come up. There's my time. Shoot, I like our parks, and I volunteer in them, and everybody else should too if you get the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jake?
Azalea Park specifically has really been under the control of the city for a relative short amount of time, and a lot of there's a lot of it that really hasn't even been touched yet. But what has been done is really something. If you guys, I recognize a lot of faces that I met during the azalea tree cutting. I don't even know what you call that dilemma or fiasco to some of you. And but it definitely put Azalea Park in the spotlight, and it got a lot of people out there. And it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing that's been accomplished. And for 10, 15 years, putting together a master plan for it and try to get things moving, to see in the last few years a lot of these things finally coming together. The issue with parks is when parks are developed, oftentimes with grant money, we develop more parks and we're keeping the same amount of maintenance employees, maintenance resources we have to keep up those parks. And so it is an issue, and Azalea Park alone could take as much money as we wanted to throw at it. It's a 40-acre park. So I think we're doing well with what we have. The improvements that have been made to Azalea Park, Mill Beach was a big one. Easy Manor Park was a new park. They're great, but it's going to continue to come up in the future, paying to take care of what we've developed. Real quick, parks, it was something that originally one of the first things we looked at possibly contracting out to a private company. But there was guys were having a hard time bidding that kind of work. It was so large and so extensive that I think people just didn't really know how to bid it. So that might be something in the future that I think we would need to look at again to see if we can get it done cheaper and more efficiently with the private sector. But for right now, what we're doing, the marijuana tax did help a bit with funding. The city council was pretty much unanimous in that.
Teresa?
Well, as president of Azalea Park Foundation, I have gotten pretty involved in all of the operations at Azalea Park and the other parks in town. And I agree on all the additions that have been done to the parks in Brookings, and I think they're wonderful. And this question about maintenance, we really could use a little bit more money, and I don't want to waste money on it. But we have parts of Azalea Park that aren't mowed on a regular basis, and I am not complaining about any of our staff. I was on the budget committee, and the parks have grown and grown even in the last few years. Mill Beach, Chetco Point, new playground over by the ball fields, all of these things. You know your house. Anybody moved into a brand new house and 1 year later you're like, I shouldn't have to do any maintenance. Things come up. You have to do it. And it was a shame that the trees that were cut down, a lot of them it had been because they had not been pruned on a regular basis. And they had just gotten to the point where they were too dangerous or too expensive to take care of. And so that's the issue, and I think that's where this question's coming from. I would have liked to have seen 25,000, like Dennis requested, go towards the trees. Out of a budget of almost 23 million to save trees in this beautiful forest that we live in, I don't think that was too much, but we made a start. So next year, maybe we can do a little bit more. We're trying. Azalea Park Foundation had not been operating for a couple years. It was just kind of struggling along, and that's what made me get involved. That's why I'm sitting here right now. I became president. We got a great board. We started taking care of the park again and working with the city staff. So I think we're in the right direction. We can always do more. But just because we have forest out there, I want to take care of the ones in town too. And I think we're doing that.
Thank you. Our next question is for the mayor candidates. And the first, I've got two questions, so I'll ask them both. Talk about the Azalea Park trees and their care. And I think that's is asking the same thing. Many folks were discouraged that the city cut 35 trees after a paid arborist designated only 9. Do you support improved protection for public trees going forward? Tree City America? Question mark. Jake, would you address that first?
Yes. So I think the biggest fault with azalea trees is that that for the past 15 years, none of them had been taken out, and that tree maintenance in the park or trees coming down in the park, it should happen onesie, twosie, threesie a year. We should have a few come out every year. Little ones grow, big ones, some of them get cut down, and it just that's basic maintenance. But what you had were, 15 years of just adamant counsel that trees aren't going to get cut down, and it's definitely a hot button issue, and no one wanted to deal with it because it wasn't fun. It definitely wasn't fun dealing with. Specifically, the arborist report thing was brought up. 8 trees. An arborist report and the inspection that he did is a snapshot picture in time of today. There's 8 or 9 trees it was that have to come out today. And here's this other list of trees that are showing the signs, and it's logical to expect that natural progression is going to be that next year how many ever are going to have to come down. And so I think it was the best decision financially and just to get caught up on it a little bit to take down the 34 or 35 trees I think that ended up getting cut. So I think moving forward, I think it would be better for the community as a whole. It might cost a little bit more taking them out onesie twosie, but I think that's going to be the best way moving forward for sure.
Thank you. Teresa?
Okay. I wasn't happy about 60 trees, but I wanted to educate myself when it first came up, and that was my start in getting involved in watching city government. So I researched and listened to all of the experts and the arborist. I felt confident in his recommendation for 8 trees, and I'm glad it wasn't 60. I wish it could have been less. I feel like we fought the good fight, and I'm not a sore loser. I'm not running for mayor because the trees got cut down. It's way bigger than that. I accept that tough decisions have to be made. I hope that we've all learned our lesson and woken up when it comes to the trees, because they are a great resource for this community. And I personally, from the arborist report, I differ in Mayor Pieper a little bit. I think they could have been trimmed and saved, and I'm sad they weren't. What is even worse is the city did not put any money towards replacing those trees. So there was no money put in the budget, no plan to replace them. And what's even worse than that, the arborist said the existing trees behind the band shell, they are very compromised because of foot traffic. So we got to keep them up, but there still has been no money and no plan to provide a barrier around those, like a rock fencing that would look natural, and then people would be directed to walk. I had no idea that walking amongst the trees, you pack down the soil, the water can't get to them. And so that is a big issue that we still have. And I hope that we can try to protect the ones we have going forward just a little bit more, and have some replanting plans put in place. So I think we're doing better, but we can do more.
Okay, Mr. Pieper, do you have any response to that, or would you like to,
well,
1 minute
right.
for a rebuttal?
Oh, okay. I was going to ask about rebuttal if we're doing that. Okay,
Yeah,
that's good to know.
we can if.
Okay.
We're trying to be balanced here, so.
Okay, so the Lundin Lane trees, I think, which were the as far as aesthetically, I think were the saddest to lose, and those were there were trees replanted. It still doesn't look as good though, obviously, as nice mature trees. And then as far as 35 trees being cut down, should 35 have been replanted? A number of them there were smaller trees that were already there that can grow up higher now. Plans on, as far as hurting trees, because we walk through trees. It's okay to walk through trees. I want to be able to use the park and walk by the trees. So it's just kind of that's the nature of having a park that gets used, is that there is a human footprint left over when we use it. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for the city council candidates. Would it be possible to have contractors that dig into our streets post a bond that would pay for needed repairs 1 to 3 years after the digging into the streets has occurred? See all of the rough roads on Alder Street. So Dane, would you like to address that issue? The issue of contractors and the appearance of shoddy work.
Could I have the question repeated, if you don't mind, sir?
Would it be possible to have contractors, those that dig into our streets, post a bond that would pay for needed future repairs? See all the rough roads on Alder Street.
I'll admit that I'm puzzling over putting this one together. I wonder if the questioner wouldn't mind rephrasing their question a little bit and resubmitting. I don't mind taking a moment and letting my other fellow candidates take a shot at this one. I think I get what's being asked here, but I hope maybe if the asker in the audience doesn't mind rephrasing the nature of this question.
I think the question is that contractors are allowed to make repairs, dig into the streets for purposes, and then the question is, should they be held accountable for repairs once they have done, beyond the initial phase?
Assuming that is indeed the questioner's intent, assuming that is wherever that person is, should contractors be held responsible for the work that they do after applying for and then making a bid to do a project? Well, absolutely, sure, definitely. I mean, when a city asks a private business to do work for it, to maintain a road or to install or update some of the outstanding storm drains that we've got, yes, you do want to hold that organization accountable, absolutely, and make sure that private company does the work that they're supposed to, that they're being asked to do. And that's why we do need strong directors who have good relationships with these companies and who can keep an eye on them and observe and survey the work that they do. For those of you who look very regularly at like our city council agendas, you'll see pictures taken of work that's being done and updates on those different projects. Don't just rely on those pictures. Also go out and take a peek yourself. Just like the audience member who is concerned about whether our parks are up to par. If you see work that's being done and you've got construction experience, or even if you don't, and you think something's being done shoddily, let the city know. Inform them if you think something's being done incorrectly. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla?
I don't have a lot to say about this, but yeah, if somebody was a contractor and they have some kind of they cause damage and they, and there's repairs that need, I would hope that that's exactly what would happen, that they'd be responsible for work that wasn't done right. And so that's it.
Okay. John?
I would have, obviously, the answer to the question, how I think I understand it, is are we going to hold contractors, basically guarantee their work. But obviously, we have to do that. We're spending taxpayers' hard-earned money. So if we're spending $1 million for a project that Tidewater's doing or one of the other big contractors here in town, obviously, we have to keep them accountable. We have to make sure that all the work is done up to spec. And that's really about all I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you. Dennis, do you have any thoughts on the bonding of these contractors and this issue?
When contractors are sought, they give bids to the city staff, and they're vetted by staff and approved subsequently by the council. I would definitely say that any contractor should have the appropriate insurance or whether or not they post a bond for responsibility for any damage that might be incurred. Aside from that, this is really not my field, and I'd have to research it further. Thank you.
Ron, would you like to?
Standards and specifications of the city require a 1-year bonding for all work. The bond's released at the end of 1 year, providing that there's been found nothing's not serviceable in the work they did. But the person I think asked this question is asking why in the dickens are all those bumps in what is it, Pioneer, Oak Street and Pioneer? Alder. It's just really hard. And one thing that's really aggravating is that we fix a road, we resurface a road, and it seems like the next day they're out there digging a trench to fix something. One of the problems is that our infrastructure is so far lacking in maintenance, and the pipes are so old they continuously break. You can fix this break, and tomorrow, 3 feet down the way, another break shows up, and another break. We've got to catch up with our infrastructure. It's been in maintenance deficit for years. We have tried very hard to address this issue over the last 10 years. Mayor Pieper and I worked together to rebuild our standards and specifications in which we required a bonding to be done, and then we required a different method for patching the asphalt when it was done that should make it more serviceable, less bumpy. And it's something that I usually catch when I get a hold of the public works director. I will point out to him, said, that bump down there, you can't ride a bicycle across it. I ride bikes around town. I can't ride my bike across it without walking through it slowly because it's going to take my tire out. I admit with everybody, it's a real aggravation. We tried to address this in our standards and specifications. Needs to be addressed again, probably.
Thank you. Dane, did you have a quick comment there?
If I may.
Please.
So one of the reasons why I was so glad to see that gas tax pass with such a high rate of voter approval is because it was a tax that, for the most part, people approved of. They liked the gas tax. I think that was a good example of a good tax, one that's going toward a good cause, maintaining roads, that's going to a commodity that the majority of voters agreed with and felt this is a good and worthwhile tax. And that gas tax is the money that can go toward maintaining our roads and trying to shave off those little bumps that seem to crop up from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Lynn, now that we have a full-time county administrator to manage county business, what do you see as the job of a county commissioner?
A county commissioner needs to understand all of the county, from way up in Port Orford and Langlois down to the Curry County. I think a county commissioner should be aware of or help create a strategic plan for the county so that we can follow the will of the people. A county commissioner should have a vision of how to lead that strategic plan and how to use the tribal administrator to implement that plan with staff.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for all of our panelists, and I'd like to just start on this end and go down. I think this one can be fairly quick. The question is, if you served or enlisted in any branch of the U.S. military, please state the years of your service from boot camp enlistment until discharge, and the status of your discharge, honorable, general, or dishonorable? Teresa?
No, I haven't served. I would be like Private Benjamin. You remember that movie? Sorry, it's just not my thing.
Nope, I didn't serve either.
I haven't served either.
I was pleased not to get a letter from the president in spring of 1969 that says you get to go in the Army. In October of 69, I went in the Army. I did 2 years of service. I was released from duty in 71 and discharged in 76 honorably.
Come on, Joe.
I have not served in the military. I got out of high school, went to college, became a policeman at age 21.
I have not served in the military. Oh, you have.
I joined the military in 2005, right out of high school. I was 17 and a half. My military occupation specialty was 97 Echo. Now it's 35 Mike. That's Human Intelligence Collector. My contract ended in September 2010, but they hung on to me until December 2010. One deployment to Iraq, 2009 to 2010, honorable discharge. I would like to say very briefly, by the way, that veteran status does not necessarily mean that my vote counts more than anybody else's, and it doesn't mean that what I say matters more than another person's when it comes to issues of war or military spending. So just my veteran status just tells you a little bit more about my background, my history. It doesn't mean that I have more important things to say than you might about things like gun control. Thank you.
I would like to thank all of the veterans who have served. I have not been in the military.
Thank you. All right, this question is for the council position 4, and it's specifically to Mr. Triglia. Are you for or against sanctuary cities? Please explain why. 2 minutes.
Oregon is a sanctuary state, whether we like it or not. With respect to Brookings as a city, having our law enforcement department worry about arresting immigrants who have done no other crime but just being in this country. I can't. I oppose the ballot measure that's on the ballot this time.
Thank you. Mr. Hedenskog, 2 minutes as well.
I'm afraid that the issue of sanctuary city goes a lot deeper than just illegal alien issue. However, you know, we swear as a counselor, we swear to uphold the laws of the United States, we swear to uphold the laws of the state of Oregon, and we swear to uphold the BMC of Brookings, all of which advocate equal rights. And so I've sworn, my mother would soap my mouth if she knew how much I swore. So.
Thank you. The next question is for Mayor, specifically to Mr. Pieper. How much do you value a college education, and do you think enough of Brookings High School graduates are going to college?
Let's see, I don't know how many Brookings graduates are going to college, but I value a college education for sure, just like any other education. College, you know, it can teach you, it can teach you a lot of things, but more than just the subject matter. It can teach you critical thought and can mature you as a human being. And if that works for you and you can do it and financially, then great. I didn't go to college. I went to a junior college for a few years. I studied accounting and a lot of tax accounting. And then when I grew up and actually got into business, I realized that, well, you hire an accountant. You know, it wasn't as big of a deal as what I thought. That's what you hire a bookkeeper for. You hire an accountant for. So, if that, depending on what you want to do, I've encouraged my children, if it matches, if they say, I have one daughter that wants to be an astronaut, I have one that wants to be a baker, and so I've told them, all right, if this is what you want to do, then if it requires a college education, that's what you do. One thing, a college education, part of me wishes that I would have done more schooling, because I think it can definitely open up more doors for you. It doesn't qualify you necessarily for a job, but it can, in a stack of applications for interviews, you can just, get tossed out without the letters behind your name. So I chose to take a different route and just go to work, just get married and go to work. So I'm glad how it turned out, but part of me wishes, I'm looking at my wife, part of me wishes I would have stayed in school a little longer, but I wanted just to get married.
Thank you. Ms. Lawson?
I substituted quite a bit last year, and I must be just crazy or I don't know. I would go to any school, any grade, any subject. Welding at the high school, that one was real fun. That teacher there is amazing. And those kids wanted to weld, and I'm like, no, you're not welding. You're working on laptops today. It's a free day. You get to research. We are not playing with fire. But what I noticed at the high school, they are really trying. Their graduation rate is up. I think that we could always have more students going to college, but on every teacher's store, there's a plaque that says where they went to college, what they intended to graduate, what their original degree was going to be in, and what their degree ended up being in. And there are signs all over our high school telling kids that education matters, and it's not an option, it's a plan. And so I think that the high school and our whole school district has really, from the stats I've looked at, has really improved. And I would encourage that. I would encourage a lot of the retired people in this community that have had different professions to try to get in touch with some of the high school teachers and go in and show the kids what can be done. We have some amazing teachers. They're teaching AP courses there and really giving them a great education. And I think our college rate, I am not 100% sure on this. I think it's about 25%. And it is less than the state, but I don't think it's that much less than other communities of our size. So we can always do better.
Thank you. Mr. Pieper, do you request a rebuttal?
No.
You're very good. Ms. Lawson, what community involvement have you had, and how do you think you can improve the community for everyone? What community involvement, and what do you think you can improve the community for everyone?
Okay. When I first arrived in Brookings, we moved here for the beauty, the weather. I came from Oklahoma. It was really hot and really cold, and I still love that. It can rain all at once. I'm never going to complain about the rain. I promise I won't. And I just got involved, first of all, with fun things. Looked at the paper every day and went to all the concerts and went to the Chetco Activity Center for events, went to the Monday night dinners they used to have at the VFW. I'm sorry they aren't doing that anymore. Those were pretty fun. And just got involved in the community and ended up becoming president of Azalea Park Foundation. And that led, like I've said before, to getting involved in the budget committee. And I still, this year at Azalea Park, or Azalea Festival Parade, I had 4 floats that I had involvement with, and I was running around trying to take pictures of all of them and not get in the way, and I could have used the mayor's golf cart. That would have helped. But I'm very involved in this community. I've been out walking the neighborhoods, and what I do is it was really nerve-wracking at first. Are people going to be offended that I'm knocking on their door? And I just say, I'm Teresa Lawson, and I'm running for mayor of Brookings, and show them my brochure, which has my picture on it. I think it gives it a little bit softer touch, and they're not so afraid of me. And I say, I'm doing this the old-fashioned way. And I hear from them all the time, that's really cool. I haven't I don't know, when's the last time somebody came to my door that was a candidate? The two things I hear from them are housing and an indoor pool. I will tell you, an indoor pool, the elderly people, I shouldn't say elderly, older people, when your joints hurt, I'm only 54 and my joints hurt. That's physical therapy. The kids need something to do in the winter time. And I know it's expensive, but I think that the community, I hear that a lot. And if we don't get out and talk to our community and really find out what they want, and they know that housing, I was at one house and the guy's losing his house because they're selling it and there's nowhere to rent. And I know there's nowhere to rent. And it broke my heart. So.
Mr. Pieper, would you like to address that?
As a rebuttal? I don't
No.
remember the question now. Was it to her
Me
specifically?
either.
Oh, okay.
It was to her specifically, but I think you should answer. What community involvement have you had, and how do you think you can improve the community for everybody?
Community involvement. So I've been my line of work brings me into a great number of homes on a daily basis, and that has been. It's something when you're in someone's home, especially when they don't know you're a city councilor or they don't know you're the mayor, and people are free to speak. You can I learned a great deal from people like that over the years. Community involvement, obviously, I mentioned I've been on the council for quite a while. I have kids here, 4 children, so that definitely keeps me out and about. And that, because of that, I believe that I am making the community a better place. I think that what we've done, I say we, what I've been able to be a part of on the city council has changed this city. And if you've lived here for a while and can see the changes in the city and just in what's been accomplished, I think it's really pretty great. So,
Thank you. Teresa, would you like a few seconds for rebuttal? I've offered. Good. Thank you.
How many rebuttals do we get? Because mine was a rebuttal.
I've lost count, but thank you. Moving on, we'd like to move to
Just so we're all clear.
to the commission.
Kind of.
What are the 2 biggest problems facing our county?
The 2 biggest problems, there's 3. The housing issue, the hospital, mental health, and jobs and economic development. And they kind of all weave together. I don't think you can separate any one out of them without addressing the others.
Thank you. As you watch the clock, we're getting close to our ending time, so I'd like to conclude with this question. It's for all of the candidates. How would you propose inclusion of citizens in the decisions of our community? So could we start with Jerry Lynn Thompson?
Okay. I would meet with the cities, Port Orford, Langlois up there, Gold Beach, and Brookings, and try to meet with their leaders and find out what's going on, so that then we can make an informed decision at the county level to include all of the issues that they have and try to work through them, find the resources, solutions, the monies, all of the above to help the entire county.
Thank you.
We don't have necessarily a big polling system here. There's no particularly reliable way to exactly poll everybody and find out what they think. But we do vote. And I very much like to look and see how the people of Brookings in our districts have voted. And I try to extrapolate from that ideas about what do most of the people want. How do they vote for president? How do they vote on some of the measures that are coming up right here, right now? How are these folks going to decide what they want to see? That's a big way to inform us. I really like email too. So as a city councilor, you get a city council email account, and at that email account, you can email your city councilors, and of course, you have that guaranteed time in front of any commission that you want to go to. Another way to get involved with community involvement is to have these really great and fantastic committees that the city of Brookings and the county has. And there are positions open in some of those committees and those citizen involvement groups right now. Our own school district has like some budget committee openings and a school board opening as well. So there are ways for individuals to get involved there. And those individuals have people that they listen to and that can then share what they feel and what they have going on. So there are really lots of some great ways to try and find out what people think, aside from bumping into folks in the aisles of Fred Meyer and reading through emails from those people who have a means of emailing or calling. Again, there are different ways to get out there, but looking at how you all have voted is one way that I can try to get an idea of what you all want and what the city of Brookings thinks. The voting city of Brookings, I should say.
Thank you. Carla?
I love this question. Of everything that I've learned and what I've seen since deciding to run for city council, the thing I've heard the most is a lot of people in the community feeling like they don't know that their voice is heard. They feel like things are just kind of ticking along and happening at city council, and decisions are being made, and they don't feel like they had an opportunity to speak on that. And so I will say that whether I become a city councilor or not, I'm very committed to having that change. And there may be real things that are going on that are barriers to why people are feeling that way. It may just be information that needs to be put more forward when agendas are coming out or when there's workshops. But I definitely am committed to making sure that people in the community that work, that have children in school, whatever their things are that keep them busy, that we can keep important issues going on in the city in front of them. The other morning I woke up very early thinking about, I know that the city council meetings are recorded. I'm not sure if they're live televised, but we have social media now where things are shown live, and so whether that's a way for people to be able to stay tuned in at home and really know what's going on. I'm pretty sure that every one of our committees and commissions at the city have openings, and whether we as a city can facilitate more people understanding exactly what those committees and commissions do and what the commitment is. But I think encouraging people to get more involved and get closer to it and check it out, and maybe creating some new ones for some of the things that we want. So yeah, thank you very much for the question.
Thank you. John?
I also agree. This is a great question. I know a lot of people in town. I've been here a long time. What I encourage people to do is stop talking about it. Get involved. Get involved. My dad raised me by telling me on a regular basis, words are one thing, actions are another. So get involved. Get out in your community. Encourage your friends to be involved. That's what I've done. That's what I'm going to continue to do. I lived in this town for 1 month, and I started donating my time within 30 days of moving here, and I haven't stopped, and I'm not going to stop. I want to do what's right for Brookings to make this city better than it is now. We got a great gym here. I mean, this is a jewel. This is like the spot on the coast of Oregon, and because of this jewel, it kind of creates a lot of problems that other towns don't have. We have limited space here. We have limited housing. We have issues with our medical, but we're still a gym. So I encourage people, get involved, stop talking about it, get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron, a 1-minute response will keep us right on track.
Okay.
Can you do that?
No pressure.
I'll try to do it in 30 seconds. Number one answer is get involved. So, I don't think that for the last 10 years we've had a full budget committee. What great way to handle the city except to grab a hold of the purse and have a control over it. Our planning commission, you want to talk about housing? It all starts at the planning commission. You want to learn how it works? You get into the planning commission, and pretty soon you understand how all this stuff starts taking place. And it's not a matter of getting questions. You get involved, you get the answers. And our committees have authority to make many decisions, and not a lot of them go up to the city council. The decision is made at the committee level, and there you have it. There's openings in the committees and the commissions now.
Thank you. Dennis?
Yeah, a minute for me also. I would like to have more public workshops for one thing, and by workshop I don't mean the same as a council workshop where public comment isn't allowed. What I want to do is to hear more from the people and what they want. But with respect to our city committees and commissions, as several people have pointed out, there are several vacancies on them. The Planning Commission is a really important commission, and they barely have a quorum right now because of 3 resignations. The people who resigned had their reasons for resigning, and I would just advise anybody, if you're interested in joining one of the committees or commissions, not to necessarily take all of the information that you're given as gospel. Go out and do a little bit of your homework and make sure that you agree with it. And don't feel pressured into making any decision just because a recommendation had been made prior to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time for additional questions. No, we're out. I'm sorry. Do you really want to?
Wow, that's what I got all dressed up for. Christmas, dude.
You may.
Okay.
I can go with it. So
Okay,
1 minute, please.
I'll be quick. So the pat answer and the typical response is the lack of, encouraging everyone to get involved, mentioning all the vacancies we have on our commissions and committees, showing up to council meetings and speaking. I get that that's not everyone's bag. And so I have met with a lot of people over the 10 years, a lot more during election time, but just in the off season too. Most of you would probably be surprised at actually how few calls I get and how few people ask to get together and speak with me. It's really something. It's really amazing. There's a lot of people that will spend 3 or 4 hours on Facebook, but not just pick up the phone and call. So I've never denied anyone a meeting. I've always met with people, and I'd be happy to. So if you're not into like standing in front of a microphone or standing in front of a camera, I get it. So just give me a call or an email. Okay.
Thank you.
I think citizen involvement is very, very important. I've certainly done that with my life since I moved to Brookings. I always did before, but I've really gotten involved here. And our committees have vacancies. If I am elected mayor, I'm going to go out and recruit people for those vacancies because they are very important. We have got finance people in town that know their stuff that can be on the budget committee. We have retired engineers and city planners that could be on the planning commission. And I feel like our committees, our citizen advisory committees, that's what they're called, they are dysfunctional. And part of it is some of the members that resigned, Councilor Triglio didn't really say this, but they were very disillusioned with they were not allowed to ask detailed questions. And on the budget committee, I felt the same way. I wanted to say, what about this? What about this? It was my first year. I didn't want to cause problems. But the level of detail that we went through on the budget committee, I found disgraceful. As an auditor, it was a joke. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh. Our citizen committees need to be beefed up. We've got a lot of really experienced people in this committee, in this community, but I think we need to go out and really recruit them. And a lot of people don't get involved until you ask them 3 or 4 times. I know I'm always recruiting volunteers. It takes a lot of effort, but there is so much untapped talent in this town that we are not utilizing for the city. And that's one of the things that I'm really focused on because I've seen it not working as well as it could.
Thank you. All right.
You can go on.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time again for additional questions, as it's time to hear closing statements from the candidates. If audience members have additional questions, they are invited to remain after the forum to speak with candidates individually. We'll begin the closing statements by hearing from candidates for Brookings City Council Position 4 in the reverse order of their opening statements, and I believe that means that Mr. Henskog will be first.
Reverse. I can't talk about what I'm going to do without talking about what I have done. We've had a great run in our city for the last 12, 13 years. And part of that was because we managed to recruit a really good city manager. The job of the city council is oversight. We don't do the work, we oversight the work. We set the goals, we set the purse, and we establish the way work's going to be done, and then city staff does the work through a city manager. So we were fortunate that we had a really good city manager during that time. But that isn't necessarily just because of the city manager. City managers roll over typically in Oregon every 5 years. When we hired Gary, we asked him if we could have him dedicate at least 5 years to the city. He stayed for 10. So that leads to continuity. The other type of continuity you need is continuity in the city council. There's a large learning curve on it. 2 years minimum before you even feel like you got your feet underneath you. There is a way that the city has to operate. No councilor bosses the city around. The city council bosses the city around. So everything that one councilor would like to accomplish has to be gone through 4 others, and that's the way it's done. We've done a great job for the last 12 some years, and this is a great operating city. I was part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Triglia?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for spending your evening with us tonight. I hope this forum was helpful in deciding which of the candidates have earned the privilege of your votes. One of the reasons why no one seems to truly know what the vision for this city is because no one has regularly convened the citizens to find out. All stakeholders need to have a say, need to have the chance to voice their dreams, their visions, and concerns about what Brookings is going to be when it grows up. Without the serious asking, it will remain the same. The people voted into office will do what city staff determines is the best option for our town. We've seen what that gets us, both good and bad. It's time to really find out what our people want in well-advertised, well-noticed, small focus groups where everyone feels empowered to speak and no one is left out. We need a well-thought-out blueprint of what we consider necessary for us to thrive. Of course, it is implausible to try to level the playing field, as there will always be those that have more than others. But if we don't give the younger or less well-off or hungry artists and musicians and writers or Social Security retirees or our veterans the ability to live here, to make their home here, to thrive here, well, then we are being incredibly short-sighted and we deprive ourselves of the richness of inclusivity. It's time for your city council to sit back and listen to the hopes and dreams of those who have entrusted us with their votes. I want to see a Brookings in which all residents, young and not so young, new and long time, progressive, moderate, and conservative, can enjoy a thriving city while preserving our coastal fishing village neighborly feel. I want to see new small businesses in our community, and I want the city to be more business-friendly by offering incentives to those contemplating bringing their businesses here. I care deeply about the future of Brookings. Please check out my website at trigliaforbrookings.com. That's Triglia, number 4, Brookings.com. I look forward to representing you for the next 4 years, and I thank you for your serious consideration.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear closing statements from candidates for Brookings City Council Position 3. We'll begin with Mr. Tippman.
Excellent, thank you.
3 minutes.
Roger. So the city of Brookings is in the voting precincts of 15, 16, 17, and 21. When I mentioned earlier that I look at voter statistics, that's where I can find out what the people in the city of Brookings are voting for. What really matters there is that folks get out and vote. So when you look at these measures and you feel passionate about them, and you know you want to vote on them, double check and make sure that you're registered to vote in this area, and talk to people nearby. If they're 18 and up, make sure that they're registered to vote. It's very easy to find out and check. It's very easy to make sure that you're properly registered to vote. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that I really count on my experience on boards and nonprofits and on the City of Brookings Commission, because it brings an experience for me in how boards operate, how to reach a consensus, how to deal with and read policy, and how to read data. As a teacher, I'm data driven, and I expect my students to be driven in data too. I expect my students to read articles and glean facts from those articles and know when those news articles may come from a particular source, be that source corporate or otherwise. I also have that same discipline. I look at data and research, and it's very important to me. I want you to know that if you ever need to reach out to me, if you vote me in as a city council candidate, there's a variety of means to do so, not the least of which is remembering what I look like. And if you see me in Fred Meyer, maybe ask for a moment of my time. If that's the best way for you, it's going to happen, and you'll probably end up bumping into us in those situations there. I want you to know that the City of Brookings does have long-term and short-term goals. Those things are written down. If you ever need to know where they are on the City of Brookings website. You can also visit the City of Brookings and ask to see them. And if you feel like something is missing from those short-term and long-term goals, say so, make your voice heard, and vote for a candidate that you believe is going to include things in those short-term and long-term goals that you want on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gottlieb, your closing for up to 3 minutes.
I would like to thank everybody for coming out. It's really nice that there's so many people that are willing to take their time in the evening to come meet us. There's obviously a lot more people than questions that were able to be asked. And so hopefully if you have more questions for any of us, you'll ask at the end. And also we're available, between now and election time, but I hope it's helped you make your decision. I would love to serve on the city council and be a part of some of the decision making in the community. I'm definitely activated to be more involved with our city and the decisions being made, no matter what the outcome is of this election. But I thank you all very much. And I have a contact information on a card over there. If anybody has questions for me that they'd like to ask outside of this, I'm really happy to get together with any of you. You can pick my brain and find out what I think. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McKinney.
I'm trying to make this kind of short and sweet. Most of these guys probably want to go to Thursday night football. This is my first, my first attempt to get involved in city government. I'm kind of a hands-on person. I like being involved. I've been involved here for 28 years, and like I said before, I'm not going to stop. I'm a hard worker. I'm ethical. I'm honest. I have 61 and a half years of life experience, and 40 years in a single career, and I think I have a lot to offer. There's 2 other things that I want to talk about. Even though this is my first shot at this, I think fresh eyes are really important for the city council to have, and I have those. I have fresh eyes to come in and look at things in maybe a little bit different way than it's been looked at for the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So I think having those fresh eyes is a good thing. I think we have some serious issues, and I don't think anybody in this room doesn't realize what the issues are. It's housing, it's medical, it's mental health, it's homelessness. We all know what these problems are. It's how do we get together and get them solved. I think I'm a good communicator. I think I can bring people together. I think I can encourage people to get involved on these very serious matters. And I appreciate you all coming to listen, and you're getting involved by being here, and I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear closing statements from candidates for Brookings Mayor. Ms. Lawson, it's up to 3 minutes.
Okay. So that I don't get cut off at the end, Carla actually organized a Coffee with the Candidates event for Saturday at Harris State Park Rest Area, and that is going to be from 11 to 2. We're going to have little treats and coffee, and we can all set up a table. And the only person I think, John, you have a previous family commitment, and I I know he wanted to participate, but it was kind of spur of the moment and everybody else could do it. So it's totally casual. You can sit down with us one-on-one, and I think that would be a great opportunity because there's lots of questions that didn't get asked, and you can come up to us after, but we might have 2 or 3 people, and you might want to get home to football or whatever. This experience of running for mayor has been fantastic. I have really enjoyed just having people ask me questions, and if I didn't have the answer, I would go and research it. I think I am extremely qualified, even though I haven't been on the city council. And when you talk about fresh eyes, Gary Milliman was a great city manager. He was. And I mean, from the minute I got here, one of the first things I did was I went to this Main Street town hall that he held, and it was, I really respect him. But in February, I came up to the city council and did a public comment speech for 5 minutes, and there were $100,000 worth of expenses that he was proposing. This was every year, this year and going forward. And my background in HR and finance, my antennas just went up. No, this isn't good policy. And he never brought it back. So sometimes it is good. And when we've got these housing issues, we do need money from the state, but we've got things locally we can do also. There's accessory dwelling units. A lot of this information came from Gary Milliman at a workshop. The council has done nothing with accessory dwelling units for the last 4 or 5 months, and that is a very quick fix that we could have. So I'm out of time, but I really welcome you to come up afterwards and hear some of my ideas and coffee and conversation with candidates, right?
Thank you.
On Saturday.
All right. Last, we'll hear a closing statement from a candidate for Curry County Commissioner, Jerry Lynn.
How about,
Jay.
yeah, what's going on tonight, buddy?
My apologies.
That's
Hey, I want this night to be over. Please excuse me.
All right.
Mr. Pieper.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming tonight. I was glad to see new faces tonight too, and not just kind of a reproduction of the last debate, and different questions tonight too. That was nice. So again, I would like just to continue. I'd like to have your vote. I want to keep the city moving forward. It's not a coincidence how things have been in the last 10 years. When you look at the other governing bodies in this county and the newspaper articles and some of the dysfunction on governing boards and what's happened, you haven't seen that in Brookings, and it's not a coincidence. The last time we had that was when a rookie mayor was elected, and our great city manager that everyone seems to agree that was great, Gary Milliman, it just about ran him out. And it was only because of a strong couple counselors, and wound up with the resignation of a mayor, the resignation of another city councilor, that things started moving ahead. So again, the city has issues, the city can improve, we can always improve, but we have a well-run, functioning, efficient city, and I want to keep it that way. Once again, Gary Milliman, was brought up a lot, and he was a great city manager. He's still here. Go talk to him. Go ask him the direction of the city and what he thinks the direction should be moving forward. Talk to city employees. Don't ask a cop when he's in uniform, but we have Janelle, Jay Trost was mentioned, parks employees, public works employees. Chat with people that know the business of the city and ask their opinion. I don't know if they'd all support me, but I hope a few of them would. But that's how you find out about the workings, the business end of the city. So again, I would appreciate your vote. If I don't get it, if this is my last debate, I'd take the opportunity to thank all of you that had voted for me in the past and gave me 10 years in city government. So I am thankful for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think last we'll hear a closing statement from candidate for Curry County Commissioner, Jerry Lynn Thompson.
I want to again thank everybody for coming also. The Curry County Commissioner position is a nonpartisan position, so my take on that is that every voice deserves the right to be heard in Curry County. So I'm a very solution-oriented person. I'd like to, like I said before, like to hear from all parts of our county, the issues that are on the table that they have, and see if we can't help find a solution to those problems. And we have quite a few. I've heard from one end to the other. My experience on tribal council has, I've learned how boards work, policies are made, budgets are made, how to present issues to get funding for them, the grant opportunities that are available, the pots of money that are out there that I think could benefit Curry County. So I think I bring all of this experience to the table. I work well with people. I listen to people. Even if you disagree with me, I can sit at the table and I'm pretty sure we can find a way out of it or around it for the benefit of all of the people in Curry County. So if you want to know more about me, please go to my website, electjerrylynn.com, give me a call, ask a relative. So anyway, thank you all for everything.
Thank you. This brings us to the close of our forum. I thank you for your good humor and ask that you or invite you now to join me in a round of applause for our candidates. Thank you for coming tonight and for your interest in our local government. Remember to vote by Tuesday, November 6th. Your completed ballot in its signed seeker seat envelope must reach a white ballot box by 8 p.m. on November 6th or be delivered by mail or in person to the Curry County Elections Office by 8 p.m. on November 6th. Late ballots are not accepted and postmarks do not count. Again, I would like to thank all the KCIW volunteers and donors who made this forum possible. Chetco Public Library for sharing their meeting room with us. And most of all, thank you to all of you, the voters who keep our democracy active through your votes and your participation. Good night and drive safely.
Thank you.